under COVID-19 restrictions imposed by the IATF, there is a severe shortage in public transport in Metro Manila and other urban areas hit by the pandemic. Buses, modern and traditional jeepneys, rail services, tricycles, taxis, express shuttles, these are not enough. Perhaps motorcycle taxis can and should be added to the mix. But how can it be made safe against the contagion? Morning Forum weighs the pros and cons. Motorcycles are considered one of the safer modes of personal transport amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Many health experts agree that it is almost impossible to get infected by the coronavirus while riding a motorcycle in open air, wearing a mask or balaclava, and the mandated helmet with visor. They also agree that there is a much greater chance for passengers riding in air-conditioned vehicles, especially sedans, breathing in recirculated air to spread or get infected by the viruses. However, safety amidst the spread of viruses while riding in tandem is still up for debate, at least within the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases or IATF-EID. Angkas, the local pioneer of app-based motorcycle taxi services, wants to weigh in that debate. The IATF is now allowing riding in tandem, but only for married couples and live-in partners living in the same domicile. And they have to use a shield or barrier of approved design to prevent contagion. The IATF has approved two designs, one proposed by Bohol Governor Arthur Yap, which calls for a clear acrylic shield framed by metal tubes affixed to the motorcycle. The other, submitted by Angkas, uses a shield made of high-density plastic and worn like a backpack with strategically placed grips for passengers to hold on to. In designing the prototype shield, Angkas consulted with Lee Parks, president of Total Control Training in California, a multi-awarded and well-established institution for motorcycle safety. At a recent online press conference, Parks said that the Angkas design met all his concerns about placing a protective barrier between rider and pillion passenger on a motorcycle, including how the barrier would affect motorcycle ride and handling. Parks came to Metro Manila to test the use of the motorcycle passenger shield both as rider and as passenger, and found it to be safe.
The fact that you're able to put it completely on the driver and you're able to test, as Angkas has extensively, at different speeds, different wind conditions, different traffic conditions, it's very easy to know whether or not it's something that hinders their ability to control the motorcycle. Once you start attaching hard objects, especially large, flat pieces of material that are going to act as sort of aerodynamic sails, like a sailboat would have, or a wing, then all of a sudden you run into problems with how that can affect the motorcycle's handling. And there's a reason that motorcycle manufacturers don't provide mounts for things like this. It's because they would have to be extensively tested. There's too many variables involved. And so I think very elegant solution of it having just attaching to the primary driver is really just kind of an ideal setup. And as George pointed out, for a very reasonable cost, you can add this extra layer of protection in. And it also has extra side benefits.
Park said that while the shield can firmly maintain its shape during a ride, it remains pliable in case of a crash, providing safety to rider and pillion passenger. In coming up with its motorcycle passenger shield, Angkas meant to put another barrier against contagion aside from the protection of helmets, masks, and balaclavas, according to Walter Wong, Angkas head of marketing and special projects.
The key part is that we add multiple layers of protection. The visor and the mask are already protective on their own, but given that we are talking about motorcycle taxis and you'll be taking possibly multiple passengers in a single day, you want that extra layer of protection. Essentially, you have a barrier, right? And it's very straightforward. It's something that blocks the virus because essentially the spread is one way. But you have a driver and a passenger facing one direction, both the same direction, so most likely the transmission is going to be from passenger to driver rather than the driver backwards.
Angkas partnered with the University of the Philippines College of Public Health, or UPCPH, to come up with recommendations on how to make motorcycle taxi services relatively safe amid the COVID-19 pandemic. At the digital conference, Dr. Vicente Belizario Jr., UPCPH Dean, indicated a barrier between rider and passenger is just one of the aspect of protocols for the safe resumption of motorcycle taxi operations. The others include disinfection of motorcycles after each use, at least the frequently touched surfaces, hand washing or use of sanitizing gels, passengers using own helmets, wearing of masks, and cashless transaction. ANCA's chief transport advocate George Royeca said that the use of shield would be complemented by public behavior that conforms to health protocols.
ANCAS has always been in the spirit of collaboration, and we believe that's key. We are 100% with user and also with the government in how we can ease into this new normal. No, let's help each other in a collaborative effort to co-create what is the new world, and hopefully we can all live in the new world relatively safe.
There is always a risk of infection when taking public transport. The most important thing is reducing the risk to levels acceptable to health and other safety experts. Every mode of public transport allowed to operate should do so under protocols mandated by the IATF to reduce the risk of spreading the contagion. Motorcycle taxis should be given the same consideration to operate. The community and the economy need as many safe and efficient public transport modes to survive and overcome the pandemic. That's our Morning Forum this week, brought to you by Suzuki Philippines.